Okay, let's move on to the second part of this notes. And for the first part, we have talked about the properties of a parallelogram. And for the second part, which is the conditions for you to identify a parallelogram. And actually, for first three reasons, which is not new, you can, if you reverse to the first part, for the properties of a parallelogram. Actually, that is just the converse of the properties of a parallelogram. For example, here you can observe for this the opposite side for here, which is the opposite side of a parallelogram. So that if you know this time the opposite sides are equal. So that which is AD equals to BC and AB equals to CD, and you know that the four sides can make a parallelogram. And so that I just be quick, since all the concepts are the same, and for this part, the part B, which is the opposite angles, and for the part C, you know this time this is the about the diagonals, so that I just write down this is the about the diagonals, and so that please for the reasons a little bit different, so that please remember. And actually for part D, and that reason which is not very difficult for you, again if you just split into two parts, and you know the first triangle is congruent to the second triangle, and if you can identify this, you may easily to obtain that two angles are equal, and hence you will have to parallelize, so you will get that this is the parallelogram, so that you can just write down if AB equal to CD and AB is parallel to DC, DC and parallel to DC, you will obtain it is a parallelogram. Okay, so let's look at some examples here. And for here, you want to prove it is a parallelogram, so that you can just base on the questions write that. This time, obviously, it is related to the diagonal, so that you can write down since you know BE equals to ED equal to 6, and the reason should be given. Please remember for that reason, just using conditions provided in the question. And you know BE equals to ED equals to 6 and AE equals to EC equals to 7. Again, this is the given condition, so that you can just write that ABCD is a parallelogram. And for the reason, which is the diagonals bisect each other. Okay, so that there is the reason for you to memorize. And okay, so that let's look at one more examples. And this time you want to find the x and make use of the x to prove it's the parallelogram. Actually, it is not very difficult, but please remember, this time we don't have any parallelize, so that for part A, you can't use the reason interior angles, since we don't have any parallelize. Okay, just give you a remark, so that for part A we can just observe this time we have 4 angles, so that we can just base on the numbers of angles, add all the values, and you know this time if we add all the angles, this time you will know that this is the angle sum of polygon. And okay, so that finally we can just simplify our answer. 3x minus plus, okay, this 2, which is 226, and minus 3, 16. Okay, you can find the x used to 50 degrees. And so that is the first part. And for part B, again, we can make use of this to understand this time obviously the opposite angle should be the same, so that you can just find that you know x used to 50 degrees and the reason should be proved. And so that you can calculate the values of angle A and angle C. Oops, we don't have enough space. And for the angle B and angle D, they are the same. And again, this is the given conditions in the question, so that actually you know that 4 lines can form a parallelogram. And for the reason, you can just write down this time there is the opposite angles equal. Okay, so that's all about this notes examples, and so that actually for the reasons not very difficult. Let's try to memorize the reasons and try to look at more examples.